Hello everyone, you're all welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to cut and sew this inbuilt cupped corset with Basque waistline and yoke. I went ahead to place my corset pattern on my fabric before cutting it out. I'm using the black crepe fabric for the front part. So I put my crepe on fold for the center front. Make sure it's on fold, the edge is on fold, and you place your pattern before cutting it out. So when you open it up, you're going to have this. I also cut out the lining, and I went ahead to add 1/2 inch all round for my sewing allowance all around my fabric. So I also cut out for the side, 2 sides, and I also cut out lining for it. I added the stitching allowance 1/2 inch except at the side, because I've already added stitching allowance to the side. Remember, we added 1.5 stitching allowance while drafting on the pattern paper. So this is how I'll be stitching it. The mid part of the corset and the sides. And then this is the back. I cut the back as one. I just used my tape to hold it down and I cut it like that on my fabric. So for the back, I'm using Ankara. And I also attached interfacing stay to all my fabric pieces. I've also cut out my cup on my fabric, and you can see how I labeled it. So go ahead and label your cup as well. It's very important so you don't mess it up. When you mess this up, it can affect how your bra cup will turn out. And you see I also went ahead to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance all around my fabric. So I'll pick each from each side. I'll pick one from each side, go over to my sewing machine and stitch. I'll stitch using 1/2 inch. And you can see my lining pieces. So I cut out 4 Ankara, 4 lining. I'm done stitching, and this is what is looking. This is the front part, you can see, and this is the bra cup. I went ahead to place it on my tailor's ham. I ironed it down neatly and turned it over to iron again. You can see how it's already standing. So this is my crepe, and I have my bias here, which I'll be using to create my boning casing. So this is 1.5 inches in width, and the length is the length of my fabric of my corset bodies. So I've gone ahead to mark the midpoint and the sides, the dart side. I'll be placing bonings. I'll be making casing on that side, and I'll be creating like 5 boning channels. So from that top side, I'm going out by 2 inches. Then I came down at that point by 4.5, and then at the down part, I came out by 3 inches. So just create it however you want, and how many channels you want to create is up to you. I'm creating 5 channels, so I've marked them out, and I'll go over with my bias. This, I'm using my Ankara. You can use black fabric, you can use any color you want, and I'm going to stitch it down close to the line I made. Remember, it's 1.5, but it's on fold. So this is it. I'm going to be stitching it close, making my stitch from the open part close to the line that I drew, just like quarter of an inch, not up to quarter, just a bit away from the line, and I'll stitch down. I'm going to turn it. Just watch the way I'm going about this. I'll turn it like that, and I'll stitch that place down again, the other side down of the boning channel. So after I'm done stitching down, I'll still turn it to the first side that I stitched, and I'll top stitch at that point. So I'll be top stitching at the first place that I stitched. After this, I'll go ahead and create the other channels off camera. I'm done, and this is what we have. You can see how it's looking. So these are my cup. I'll go ahead to fix my cup at this point. After ironing properly, I'll be using bra cup for this. That will be later. When fixing your cup, you notice that there is a part that is larger than the other. So the smaller part is the part you're going to be placing into the center front, while the larger part is going into the armhole side. So I'm using my pin to hold it from the edge. Then I'll go ahead to shear it on the rest part of the fabric. Just the way I'm going about it. You watch carefully, you'll be able to understand it better. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine to stitch this, and I'll also be attaching the other side as well. I'll be using 1/2 inch to stitch this. Take your time to stitch this so everything aligns properly. When you have a perfect cup, you're halfway done with your corset. So I'm stitching, and then I'll be removing the pins when I'm close. At this point, guys, if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit on the red button to subscribe. Like, turn on your post notification bell so you're updated whenever I upload a new video. And also the skirt part of this tutorial, the 6 pieces skirt part will be going up soon, so you want to stay connected and not miss out on that. So turn on your post notification bell and stay connected. Thank you, guys. So I'll go ahead to stitch carefully. You can see how I'm stitching this carefully, taking my time. Do same so that you have a beautiful outcome. I'll stitch the other part as well. And this is what I have. You can see how it's turning out. I also stitched the lining part. I added the bra cup to the lining part. This is my yoke. I've gone out to cut out the yoke, and I use 1/2 inch stitching allowance all round except for the shoulder part. And this is the illusion mesh, the skin mesh that I'll be using to turn the neckline. So if you want that illusion effect, use your illusion net, or you can use your crepe fabric. You can use any other black fabric if you don't want your skin showing. So now I'm going to be attaching the yoke to the corset. I'm joining the midpoint together using my pins to hold it down. Make sure you use your pins to hold it down before going over to your sewing machine to stitch. In this way, it makes the work a lot easier for you and the turnout neater and better. So I'm pinning it all around, And I'll go over to my sewing machine to stitch using 1/2 inch. I'm going to start making my stitch from the midpoint, and I'll add my lining when I'm done. I'll do same thing for the back. You can see the back yoke. I use my illusion mesh to turn the neck, to turn the sides of the yoke. And I'm going to be attaching it like this, and I'll use my lining to turn the neckline all round. So in attaching this is another area you need to be very careful in attaching your yoke. So I'm starting from the midpoint of the corset, and I'm using 1/2 inch to carefully sew round while I remove my pin when I'm close to it. So be careful at this point so your needle won't hit the pin. So watch the way I'm going about it. You can see how careful I am. So after stitching this part, to stitch the other part, I'll go on and remove my pin, and I will stitch into the midpoint. This is what I've worked for me over the years, so I stick with this method. You can also turn it over. It depends on what you want to do and what you're comfortable with. So while I remove pin from each part, I stitch gradually. So after I was done stitching, I'll place my lining, and I'll use same method to stitch my lining to my corset. And I'll also go ahead to stitch the back. After stitching, I'll place my lining on it and do same thing. This is what we have after I was done. You can see how it's looking. So go on and place your lining, use your pins to hold it down and stitch. So after attaching the lining to it, this is what we have. Go on and notch it all round. After notching, I'll go over again to my sewing machine to top stitch on the lining. You top stitch on the lining. This will help the lining to lay better. Put all your excess fabric towards the lining and top stitch on it close to the fabric. I'm done top stitching. So the next thing is to add my bra cup. The bust size I'm using is 41, but this bra cup is 48. I tried other sizes. They were either too small or they were not really fitting. So I had to go with my corset top to fit it before picking this particular bra cup. And the parts that were a bit excess at the edge, I just used my scissors to trim it off a bit. So I'll be using my tailor's ham and with my hemming gum. I'll be attaching using hemming gum to hold the bra cup into the fabric. So I'll be placing my hemming gum just like I'm doing right now. And then I'll place my bra cup. And remember to use a steam iron. You can also place a light fabric on it before ironing. So this is what we have. I'm done attaching both bra cup. If you notice, I went ahead to change the skin tone mesh to crepe fabric at that point because I realized my skin was going to show too much, and I may wear bra. I wouldn't want my bra hand to show. And I also went ahead to stitch the bra cup to the fabric, but on the inside using the allowance. Okay, using the allowance, I hand stitched it to it so that even when the hemming gonna wear out, it's still going to hold. So I'll go ahead and create my boning channels for the back. Now I'm using my zip footer. I'm attaching it to my sewing machine. So I'll go ahead to place my boning in between the fabric and the lining at the edge there, just the way I'm doing it. And then I will stitch. I will make a straight stitch very close to the boning. So the boning is going to give that support, and it makes this whole process very easy. Then from that point, I'll go inward by 2 inches, which I'll mark down. Then at that 2 inches point, I'll make a straight stitch down. Just go on and watch carefully how I'm going about this process. You will understand it better. So after making this straight stitch, insert your boning again. Okay, just go on and insert your boning. When you insert the boning, place your footer and then begin to make another straight stitch very close to the boning, just like you did for the first part. So this is the method I use in creating my boning channels for the back. I'll do same for the third one because I'm making 3 boning channels on each part. I'm done creating the channels, and this is my back pattern. This is my back bodies and the front. I'm going to go ahead to attach it together right now using the shoulder part. So I'll go on to pick one part of my lining, just the way I'm going about it. I'll pick one part of the lining and then I'll wrap it around. Okay, so I picked one of my lining and I brought it over, and I'll go ahead to stitch using 1/2 inch. So this is what we have. You can see how neat it's looking on the inside using that method. And I went ahead to attach the front bodies to the back using 1 inch. Then at this point, I'll attach my sleeve. I have a tutorial on the channel on how to draft out your sleeve. I'll link it at the end of the video. So I'll use my pins to hold it down, joining it at the shoulder and holding it, spinning it all around before taking it over to my sewing machine. So after attaching my sleeve, this is what I have. So I'll go ahead to cut out the bonings that I'll be using. I'll be inserting into each channel. So I'm taking the measurement at this point, and the boning that I'll be cutting out, I make sure is 1/2 inch shorter than my fabric, because I'll still be hemming the down part of this corset, so I wouldn't want the boning to be in the way. So this is how I'm measuring my boning and cutting it out. After cutting it out, I'm going to null the edge. You know, the boning is sharp at the edge. Some people use masking tape, some people use nail file to null the edge, but I use fire. Just the way I'm going about it, I just use it on it and leave it to dry out. The edge is going to go blunt using this method. So I'll do it for the rest. And after I was done, I'm going to be inserting my boning into the channel. And this is how to insert your boning. Just the way I'm going about it is very easy. Just go on and insert it into your boning channels, your casing. I'll do same thing for the back part of my corset. I'm done fixing all my bonings, and I'll go ahead to cut out a strap that I'll use to hem the down part of my corset. So now I'm using my doll face satin. I folded it on bias. Okay, folding on bias is better when you want to cut a strap, especially when you're going to sew it on is not straight. So I'm marking out 1.5 inches. So to fold on the bias, just fold your fabric in a triangular shape and cut. So now you can place your rope, your bias on the right face and then turn it onto the wrong face, or you can place it on the wrong face and sew it into the right face. So I'll be using the second method. I'm going to leave 1/2 inch before I begin to pin the rest on my corset. Make sure while you're pinning, you're opening it up so that the pin, it goes round very well, it goes round properly. So I'm going to be stitching, making my first stitch on the wrong face, after which I'll turn it over to the right face and make the other stitch. And don't forget to leave 1/2 inch at the end. So I'll go back to my sewing machine and stitch using 1/2 inch. I'm done stitching, so I'll turn it over to the right face like this. Okay, I'll fold in that 1/2 inch that I left, and then I'll fold the rest part of my fabric and I'll use pin to hold it down. You can see the way I'm making the folds and going about it, using my pins to hold it down. This is going to make it easier for you and neater when you're sewing on your machine. So you can go ahead and hold it down like this first. It makes the work easier and neater. Fold in that 1/2 inch before making your other fold. So this is it. I'm done stitching, and this is how our corset is looking. I'll go ahead to create a point where I'll be inserting my eyelet. So this is my eyelet. This size is quite big, and I'm using this eyelet or grommet machine and then my soldering iron. So from the top, I'll mark one point at the top first, then I'll come down by 1.5 inch, making all the points. I'll create that point on both sides. So you can see I've gone ahead to fix my eyelet, but I left one space because I want to show you how to go about this. So after my soldering iron is hot, I will use it to pierce through the points that I made. Make sure they are both aligning. Each part of the corset must align. The eyelet points need to align. So I'll create my eyelet hole here, and I'll pick the eyelet. So I'll force it into the hole. Make sure your hole is not too big. your hole should not be too big, small, and try to fit in the eyelet into it. After fitting it in, I'm going to cover it with the eyelet cover. It's a small round ring. Placing it there at the wrong face. Then I'll take my eyelet machine or my grommet, however it is called. So now you see that point there. I'm going to put the eyelet in between there, and you press down. Make sure you secure it properly. So yeah, it's ready. We are done fixing the eyelet. So now I'm going to be attaching my modesty panel. I went on to take the measurement, the length of the back. I cut out that fabric. I think I had 14 inches, so I cut out fabric of 15 inches because I was going to turn it. And then the width was 11 inches, which I cut out 12 so that I could sew round, because I'll need to sew the fabric round. And I used Ankara and I turned using my doll face satin. I also added an interface to give it more stability. So I'm going to be attaching this modesty panel 2 inches away from the edge. Remember that point we added the second boning? That stitch we made there is the same stitch I'm going to be using to hold the modesty panel. I'll be stitching on that very stitch, okay, so that it's not noticeable. There are different ways of fixing your modesty panel, but this is quite an easy way. So I'll go over to my sewing machine. I'll use my pins to hold it, and I'll go over to my sewing machine to top stitch at that point, that boning point. So I'm done stitching it, and this is what we have. You can see how it's looking on the inside. You see how it's looking. So when fixing your model, you can also use the black material, black fabric. It must not be Ankara. So when fixing your modesty panel, make sure it goes in enough to cover your back properly. So now at this point, I'm going to be fixing the skirt part. So I'm taking my measurement to make sure my waist points align, and I'm going to rule a straight line to the back and then to the front of the waist. So I'll place my skirt on it, on the point, on the markings that I did. I'm using my pin to hold it down. So just keep watching how I'm going about this. It will give you better understanding. So I'm trying to attach the waist now to the markings, the line that I drew. And I'm going to cut out the basque. I'm going to be making the basque. So from the waist, I came down by 4 inches from the waist. So you can create different shape of basque that you want. You know, this is an inbuilt corset. So you can go for the inverted basque. You can go for the high-low. There are different shape, the V type. But I think this one, I ended up creating a U kind of shape at the end. It didn't really come out as V. So if you want V, you can, when you're done, go on and create that marking on your inbuilt corset and carefully sew it on your machine. Okay, so after making the point, don't forget to add your stitching allowance when cutting out. So I went on to cut it out, like you see me doing. and I'll go over to my sewing machine to stitch it. I'm going to turn it over. So go on and mark that V shape on your corset, okay? I didn't do that here, but I'll advise you to mark that V shape, that shape on your corset. So if you really want a V shape, it will come out exactly that way. So I'll just go on and create, I ended up creating like a U shape for mine anyway. So I'll go on and stitch it. You see the way I'm attaching the skirt part to it. Use your pins to hold it down. And I'm going to stitch it, but I'll not reach. Don't stitch to the eyelet. Okay, stop before the eyelet. Stop at that boning before the eyelet. You need to be very careful when doing this. You can use your needle and thread to tack it. You can't stitch on your boning because I'm using a plastic boning. If it's a regular boning, you can make your stitches on it because that is sewable. But you can't stitch on this, so use your needle and thread to tack the part of the bonings while you sew the other part on the sewing machine. But you need to stop before you get to your boning. And also, so take note that the point that you won't be attaching to the skirt, the point from the zip before the eyelet, you're supposed to sew that part inward, and it's only the part that you're attaching to your inbuilt corset that will be open. I'm going to explain this better in this 6 pieces skirt tutorial, which will be coming up soon. So thank you guys for staying tuned. If you're yet to subscribe, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on your post notification bell. Thank you and remain blessed. See you in my next video. Bye.